Hey, so today I'm going to show you guys what to do on this Japanese maple forest in winter. Welcome back to the channel. So I don't know if all of you recognize this forest, but I have done a video on this already. And in that video, it was basically summertime and we came in, cleaned up the canopy of the tree, the nice foliage of the tree. And now it's currently winter, so it's the perfect time to kind of see the forest with no foliage on, so we can start making other decisions on which branches we want to keep and so on. So let's get stuck in. So something I like to start off with is cleaning up all the dead dieback from last season. So you can see last season I cut it over there, and this you can see is a piece of dead wood. And it's basically just like a stick. So if I had to just tap on it, it'll probably just break. So I want to start cleaning up all of this dead stuff. You can see how it's turned to like quite a white color. So I know straight away that that's completely dead. And now I can come in and clean it off. So you can see here's another example. You can see that's where I trimmed it back last season. This has died back. And I've got two new branches over there. So I'm going to come off and clean up anything that's died back. We won't need that. It'll never come back. Boom, just snip it right back. As far back as you can. And you can see these are nice and strong now. So I can even come back and trim that little section over there. So I'm going to go through the whole tree and I'm going to clean up all of that old dieback that I can notice. And you can literally see it just snaps like a stick. That's how you'll tell. Also, again, by the change of color. So we just want to tidy the tree up. Obviously, I always like to go in a bit of a step-by-step for all of you. So it makes it easier for you to remember. But as you go through the tree, you can do this, what we do throughout the video, kind of a little bit quicker. But it's always nice to just go in a more methodical way so that we kind of remember where we are and what we're doing. And you'll actually be surprised how much dead or dieback is on the tree. We might miss one or two, but we can go back when we go through the tree and clean it up. But try get as much as you can. Alrighty. So next what we're going to do is we're going to try choose pairs. So again, remember we want the tree to grow in pairs. It's going to build much neater ramification. And this is very common on your Japanese maples where you'll have maybe like 4 or 5 branches growing from the exact same point. And we kind of want to try eliminate that. We want them to grow in twos. Again, on a more delicate forest, let's say like this, we don't want it to grow in 4 shoots right or branches right at that point, because it's going to start creating swelling at that section, which is then going to create inverse taper, which is not what we want. So we're going to start choosing which branches we want to get rid of. Cool, so this is that example. You can see there's 4 branches. So there's one here, one behind there, if you can see that, and this thicker branch here. So I don't want this ugly swell to start happening there. So we've got to eliminate it to 2. So again, remember with bonsai, we want that taper. So in this instance, as long as I'm eliminating to 2, you can't really go wrong. But in this case, I want to remove the thicker one. So then later on, it's going to have better taper so that the tree looks a little bit more natural. So I'm going to come in, remember, leave us a little bit of dieback. And I'm going to trim that one off over there. And then I'm going to decide of which one I want to keep. So I quite like the length of this one. I like that little one over there. So I'm going to come in and trim this one off. But also don't overthink it too much. As long as you're eliminating to 2, that's perfectly fine. And because this branch was a bit thicker, I've allowed myself to leave a little bit of dieback, but this one is a little bit thinner, which should be fine. And at the end of the day, these branches are fairly strong. So as long as we're eliminating to those 2. So you're going to basically go through the whole tree and eliminate it to pairs. So here's a really easy, nice example. You can see there's literally only 3. So I'm going to take the middle one. It's usually a nice one to go for. Boom. And then it's nicely side by side. Again, cutting back to the slightly smaller branches. And we basically, you can see this is a really nice example, just eliminating it to 2. So it's going from 1, splitting into 2. And then next season, these will split into another 2. And so on. Alrighty, so I'm going to go through the tree and we're going to basically eliminate them to pairs, and then we'll kind of move on to the next step. But this is super basic, really nice to do. I love working on deciduous trees because it's quite mindless. You can just kind of go through the tree, eliminate them. And just now I'll show you, because you must also be careful not to get confused. So basically you can see over here, there's like 2 branches coming from this section where potentially we could just remove one of the branches. So there's only one growing side by side. But when I'm talking about this, I'm more kind of talking about the tips of the finer branches. Don't worry about the big main branches for now, but kind of focus on the tips of the branches. And then each season you do this, you're just going to have more and more branches to cut back. But yeah, I mean, this tree, the seedlings are probably about 3 years old, maybe 4 years old, and then planted it into a bonsai pot. So it's still a developing forest, but you can see that you can create something really nice fairly quickly by planting things together. Kind of going through the tree, seeing I haven't missed too many. You can see there's a lot growing in this section. We've got 4 growing in this section. So eliminating them to 2. And I mean, you can really ponder on this, because at the end of the day, it's hard to decide on which branches to keep. But I always say, as long as you're cutting back to 2, you really actually can't go too wrong. And then next season, you're going to have more branches anyway. Cool. Well, that looks good for now. So I kind of want this to kind of be the tip and the top of the tree. You see, I missed that one, which is very normal. Boom. And you can see down here now there's potentially 3 branches growing from one section here. But this is kind of what we would call the trunk of the tree, this middle one here, and these would be parallel branches. So again, these are guidelines. It's okay to have parallel branches on bonsai, but I find a delicate tree like this, we don't want those parallel branches, because it's going to start creating that little, like almost little knuckle or soccer ball at that point, and it's just going to look ugly. So on much bigger, thicker trees, it's perfectly fine to have parallel branches, but in this case, I really don't want any parallel branches. Plus, this branch here is starting to cross over this tree, so I kind of want to get rid of them, or get rid of one of them. So I'm going to come in and take away this one, allowing it to now split this way. So you can see there's another split, almost in another kind of pair. So I'm going to go through the tree, and I want to eliminate some parallel branches. And generally speaking, again, it's a bit of a feeling thing, or you want to kind of follow your eye. But a good guideline is any of the branches growing in towards another tree or so on, we want to remove. we always want the branches to kind of have space. So I'm just going to come in, remove some of the parallel branches before it creates those big ugly knuckles. I'm just going to go around, see if I can see any more. And remember, you want to get rid of branches at this time so that you can start creating more and more branches. It's going to look bare and weird, but over time, your tree is going to have tons of branches. Cool, I think I've got most of them. I can see one over there. And you know, at this point of the tree's life, you need to think about it, but I'm also not overthinking it. Just kind of going for which ones I feel, and then the tree's still got a long way to go. So as long as we're cutting back each season, it's just going to develop. We've cleaned up the tree quite nicely, and the next thing we want to do is basically trim back each branch to the first 2 sets of buds. So again, we want to start building that ramification. So we don't want the ramification to start quite far up the branch. We want to cut right back, allow them to split into 2, and then repeat the process. So it might seem brutal, me coming in and trimming the branch right back like that, but this is what we want to do. We want to trim back to those 2 branches or 2 buds, and then we want them to split. And remember, it's going to the branch is still going to get longer, but it's going to split into 2 rather than just having one ugly branch. We want to build that ramification. So I'm going to go through the tree and cut right back to those first 2 sets of buds. Alrighty, so I'm going to come in, trim all these branches right back. As far back as possible. And the cool thing about maples is you can cut back right back, and in spring and summer they're still going to have tons of new foliage on them. So really don't be scared. You're still going to have a nice thing to look at, but you want to do this. And I feel like a lot of people are too scared to do this, and that's why their trees never really progress. But you want to be brutal so you can have a nice tree or bonsai or forest at the end of it. And while we do this, we can still keep in mind that conical triangle shape. But you want to come in, trim all these branches right back. And then I will do a progression video, so I'll show you what the tree looks like in spring and summer, so you can see exactly what I mean. But that's looking pretty good. There's another parallel branch I missed, and I'm just going to trim them right back. Over here is one. There's a bit of dieback I missed. Cool, that's looking good. So I mean, I could also put a bit of wire on if I want to move some of the branches around, but I think for today this is looking perfect. So I hope you all learned something. Even if you learn 1 or 2 new things, you'll make my soul so happy. So I hope you guys all have a beautiful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.